JBN, we keep you informed. Unidentified woman killed in JUTC bus crash. The police are seeking the public's assistance to identify the body of a woman who was killed in a collision with a Jamaica Urban Transit Company JUTC bus yesterday. According to the police, about 6:20 a.m., the driver of the JUTC bus was driving along Hagley Park Road towards halfway between St. Andrew. It is reported that on reaching the intersection of Hagley Park Road and Waltham Park Road, the bus collided with a Toyota Probox motor car. The police said passengers aboard the bus and the motor car sustained several injuries and were taken to hospital where the unidentified woman was pronounced dead and the other passengers admitted in stable condition. Investigators are appealing to anyone who may be able to assist to identify the woman to contact them at 876-923-7111, Police 119 emergency number, or the nearest police station. 3 men arrested after cops seize gun. 3 men have been arrested in connection with the seizure of a firearm and 9 rounds of ammunition on Waltham Park Road, Kingston 11 yesterday. According to the Constabulary's Corporate Communications Unit, CCU, the 9mm Browning pistol was found at a premises in the community during an operation about 4:45 p.m. The identities of the men in custody are being withheld pending further investigations, the police said. Alleged robber fatally shot by off-duty cop. An alleged robber was fatally shot during a confrontation with a policeman on Fustic Road in Montego Bay, St. James on Saturday. The deceased, who is unidentified, is of a dark complexion, slim build, and about 5 feet 10 inches tall. The police say he appears to be in his 50s and was dressed in a black shirt, grey pants, and black shoes. The police report that about 8:10 p.m., the policeman was called into action by a businessman who required assistance to transport a large amount of cash. The policeman reportedly agreed and was pounced upon by 2 men armed with guns. One of the men reportedly challenged the police and was shot. The other escaped with the cash. The incident is now the subject of a probe by the Independent Commission of Investigations and the Police's Inspectorate of Professional Standards and Oversight Bureau. DC accused of corruption granted bail. A district constable was on Wednesday arrested and charged with multiple breaches of the Corruption Prevention Act. According to the Jamaica Constabulary Force JCF, District Constable Jonah Hollingsworth of the Santa Cruz Police Station was charged following a ruling from the Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP. The Inspectorate and the Professional Standards Oversight Bureau, IPROBE, recently launched an investigation into an incident. A file was prepared and sent to the DPP's office for alleged corruption involving Hollingsworth. He was granted bail in the sum of $1 million with 3 sureties and ordered to report to the St. Elizabeth Police Daily. IPROBE said the arrest is part of their continuing thrust to root out corrupt members from all ranks. Man charged in relation to death of St. Anne Sr. A motorcyclist has been charged with causing death by dangerous driving following a crash on Main Street in Brownstown, St. Anne on Saturday that claimed the life of a senior citizen. Charged is 24-year-old Melbourne Scott, a delivery man of Lincoln Road, Brownstown in the parish. The police report that about 11:15 a.m., Ronald Foster, 82, was crossing the roadway when a motorcycle, allegedly being driven by Scott, hit him. The elderly man, who is also for Lincoln Road address, later died at the hospital. Scott was apprehended and later charged. He remains in police custody and will appear before the Brownstown Parish Court on Friday, September 4. Jamaica imposes COVID test requirement for visitors from 4 countries. Non-residents visiting Jamaica from the United States, Brazil, the Dominican Republic, and Mexico, which have all been designated as high-risk locations, are now required to obtain a COVID-19 polymerase chain reaction PCR test before arriving in the island. The Health Ministry says this applies to all non-residents 12 years and older, including those who are business travelers entering Jamaica on or after August 20 from the locations currently designated as high risk. They are required to do the test within 10 days prior to their intended date of travel to Jamaica. All persons applying to enter on visitjamaica.com from the designated high-risk locations will be required to upload their COVID-19 PCR test certificate as part of the application process. The ministry notes that this requirement is already in effect for non-residents from the states of Arizona, Florida, New York, and Texas in the U.S. Visitors to the island are reminded that upon arrival in Jamaica, all persons will be subject to health screening and risk assessment by the local health authorities. All tourists will be allowed to go to the hotel under a Stay in Resilient Corridor order from their date of entry to Jamaica. Those tested will have to stay in their rooms until their test is returned. Visitors must report symptoms to the hotel medical station. Persons who are symptomatic or become symptomatic during quarantine will be isolated and tested. Visitors who return a negative test will remain on hotel property according to Stay in Resilient Corridor orders. Categories of travelers: residents, holders of a Jamaican passport or non-nationals with long-term stay arrangements. Non-residents applies to holders of passports from other countries. Business travelers, non-residents traveling to conduct business on behalf of a company. Does not include other residents or non-residents traveling to conduct personal business. Does not include persons attending funerals or weddings. Quarantine orders: home quarantine for returning residents. Under this measure, persons are required to remain at home. Persons under this measure would also be required to work from home and are not allowed to leave their homes or hotels or to attend funerals, weddings, parties, or any gatherings. Stay in Resilient Corridor. This measure applies only to tourist visitors who are staying in the COVID-19 Resilient Corridor designated for tourism purposes. Under this measure, persons are required to remain within the hotel property in the corridor for the duration of their stay. They are not allowed to leave the hotel and go to another property. Quarantine order for business travelers. Under this measure, short-stay business travelers are required to remain at their intended address, whether a hotel or private home, and allowed to leave only to conduct their business meetings. They are required to wear a mask in a public place, comply with the physical distancing rule, and are not allowed to meet with persons aged 65 and over, to take public transportation, or to attend any meeting, event, or gathering of more than 20 persons. Acting Permanent Secretary says all schools receiving attention. Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Dr. Grace McLean, says all schools are receiving attention for a safe reopening in September. Speaking at a virtual forum on August 13 to update stakeholders on the ministry's plans to make schools safe against the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic, McLean said international and local data are being used to inform the response to the pandemic. So rest assured that all public and private institutions across the island are being prepared to effectively cope amidst this crisis, the acting PS said, adding that the ministry has developed an education in emergency manual, which has been distributed to all schools as part of measures to deal with COVID-19. She said while the education sector has been hit significantly by the crisis, the ministry is proactive in its arrangements to safeguard the lives of all our educational stakeholders as we prepare the system for this new normal for education services delivery. The acting PS appealed for coexistence with COVID-19. We will do everything to ensure the safety of our students, teachers, administrators, and all persons who keep the wheels of the education system turning, she said. McLean also lauded partners in education such as the World Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank IDB, the United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF, and the CARICOM Secretariat, which have contributed significantly to the advancement in education with consistent investments. The forum was held under the theme, Managing the Jamaican Education Landscape during the COVID-19 pandemic, from planning to implementation, to provide a platform for the ministry's policymakers to inform stakeholders of the plans and the policies put in place to safeguard the education system during emergencies and to open the opportunity for the public to gain insight into the planning, policy, and implementation process undertaken by the ministry. Security forces must maintain vigilance after SOEs end, says Jackson. Opposition spokesman on national security, Fitz Jackson, is calling on the security forces to maintain a strong level of vigilance in communities following the end of the states of public emergency SOEs across the island. Jackson said that while he welcomed the end of the SOEs, the security forces must now optimize their levels of engagement in the affected communities to ensure the continued security and protection of residents. Many of the communities which were placed under the SOEs were already predisposed to gang warfare, violent activities, and varying levels of criminality, the spokesman noted. It is for this reason that the Commissioner of Police, the Police High Command, and the Chief of Defense Staff must ensure that these communities continue to benefit from the strategic deployment and the presence of security personnel, he said. According to Jackson, there may be elements within these communities that seek to exploit the lifting of the SOEs to prey on citizens and disrupt the efforts for peace. He said that during the life of the SOEs, the country has unfortunately witnessed instances of violent crimes taking place within the precincts of the emergency measures. It is critical in this period of a general election that our citizens are allowed the freedom to express themselves and to maintain their confidence in the democratic process of casting their votes without fear of intimidation or outright attacks, he said. We have witnessed in the past episodes of political intimidation and coercion affecting an entire community. The security forces must not participate or allow anyone or group of individuals to threaten the democratic right of our citizens, he continued. The end of these extraordinary measures brought on by the SOEs does not mean the end of securing and protecting our citizens, Jackson said. In fact, the Jamaican state should do more now to reassure the citizenry of its capacity to maintain law and order and creating an environment for peaceful coexistence among residents and communities, he added. JBN, we keep you informed. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, leave us a comment, and click the notification bell to receive our daily news items.